even prior to being on UNC in Hearthstone. So looking forward to see how that's going to continue to transition. We're going to open up with Druid versus Paladin yet again, but this time we're playing a Paladin that's going to curve very nicely against Druid, and a Druid that looks like it's leaning towards being aggressive with 2 Knife Jugglers. That is a very awkward hand to face against Paladin.
Yeah. See, I look at this hand and I wonder what are the potentials with these Knife Jugglers. But all that has been shut down by this turn 1 Zombie Chow. I mean, Zombie Chow largely, it's pretty much in terms of, stat for stat, this is the best 1-drop that you can have. And they're about to follow it up with Shielded Minibot, which is, again, kind of stat for stat, the best drop you can have. UNC's hand is just contested right from the get-go, just by a couple of early game cards from University of Texas.
Yeah, it's so huge. And, I mean, Texas is kind of laughing already. It's like, Drew doesn't know what to do. And they already kind of get a strong read. Like, the fact that Druid took this long to kind of pause on turn 1 is a very strong indication of what kind of deck is going to be coming out here. Because it's very simple for Druid on this turn is usually either just Darnassus Aspirin or you pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they go with the Living Roots there instead of, coining out Knife Juggler or even innovating Knife Juggler plus Living Roots.
Makes sense. The Living Roots allows you to have at least one single minion stick.
Yeah.
Can't clear the Divine Shield, but a lot more work going to be done for North Carolina here. Pick up Drew the Saber, but the options all still feel kind of the same to me. What you're doing is contested. In this matchup, pretty much every single game of Hearthstone you play, you're going to find that one player is the aggressor and the other one is the one playing defense. And this Druid deck does not want to play defense basically ever. And they're already being forced into a defensive position. This spells a lot of trouble for me. How do they get out of this situation?
And Paladin is a deck that deals with those strong cards like the Lothep, Druid of the Claw, and Fel Reaver so well because they have equality with mid-range Paladins usually. Aldor Peacekeeper is a huge one. Unless they have a Keeper of the Grove to silence their own Fel Reaver, sometimes that can render that useless. And lose you the game single-handedly because you're not getting the power out of it, but you're still getting, the downside of burning cards out of your deck. So,
yeah. I like North Carolina's play here. I think going for the Lotheb is pretty much your best bet at this point. But it's going to get checked straight away by the Aldor Peacekeeper, just what you were talking about. And wow, this is looking dire for them very early on.
Look how quick this sucker's going to come out of the hand. Might be the fastest. They're going to think about it for a little bit, but I don't think there's really any other plays.
I think they're considering like what happens if we get swiped in a situation like this. But I don't really know if that's something you can tend to avoid. I mean, with Ironbeak Owl, Quartermaster, Lay on Hands behind, you pretty much have to get rolling right now to ensure that you get to those turns.
And they'd have to have second Innervate in order to swipe, and it wouldn't even be that big of a board clear. So, rough position. Thing about University of Texas's hand is that they don't have a lot of longevity with that. They do have Lay on Hands coming in on turn 8, but with Quartermaster and Owl, those are very situational cards that can't just come out on their own.
Yeah, we talked about the value of forcing the Druid to play defense, but when they can Savage Roar that 1/5 out and clear out 2 of your minions, that's about the best darn turn that you can get playing defense in this deck. And their reload back behind this is pretty okay. I mean, they have kind of brought this back to an even position.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be looking at whether or not North Carolina can launch some sort of assault here or maybe even continue to fight this attrition battle.
It's scary because with so many 2 health minions, well, Druid Saber here can be 1 or 2 health. But assuming they even start beginning the reload process, your opponent has a consecration, this game would just be over. Paladin would just run away with it.
Yep.
And those 1/1 tokens are still nothing to be scoffed at. They can be taken out by a simple juggle, but even just piecing these things together with Quartermaster just can help remove more minions. And all you have to do is just survive the early game, because it's like you were talking about, Druid doesn't have the availability of dropping bigger minions as the game goes on. That Pilot Shredder is one of the biggest stat minions in the deck.
Yeah. I mean, it's very dedicated to early game. They don't have Ancient of Lore. They're not going to have Sylvanas. That late game power is pretty much seated strictly in the amount of burst they can get. But this board position, I mean, this may be the time they can turn it around. If they get a lucky juggle on this Zombie Chow, it's likely those jugglers are sticking around.
Yeah.
They can make it a halfway play. They could charge the Drew the Saber, so that way they have removal on it.
Yep.
I mean, I was even looking at possibility of just dropping Shredder and just letting it...
Just hero power, too.
Yeah, just letting it go.
Just
you hero power with the Knife Juggler?
a possibility as well. I mean, they do have a pretty good amount of options here. And again, kind of, both of them have been going kind of card for card at this point. This is looking like the beginning of an assault for North Carolina. University of Texas, they do have this true silver champion, so once again, going to be able to offset this, but they're going to need to get something rolling too.
If their plan was to try and take out the zombie channel in an efficient way, then hero power does make a lot of sense here.
Do you think there's any merit to just like playing quartermaster on one on a single token here and having a 2/5 to contest whatever comes out, and then you have true silver and a hero power? Because I do feel like floating a single hero power can be a difference maker with so many smaller minions out there.
Yeah, I think they're relying on the quartermaster to actually leverage something this turn. Like, say here they saw Druid of the Claw, they're able to take it out. If they see Pilot Shredder, they're able to take it out. So I kind of like what they've done here. The True Silver Champion just sets up a really nice turn for them.
Gotcha.
That changes things, potentially.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you really don't have any reason to just believe your opponent has swipe. So with 3 cards there, it's just pretty unlikely that they do. And if they don't have swipe, I mean, this pays off in spades.
Yeah, they'll have up to 5 potential silver hand recruits buffed by the quartermaster if that ends up being the case.
They don't want to be vulnerable to that though, so I think hero power is just enough.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think they realize it's not really necessarily a rush to finish the game.
Yeah, if they get out a swipe this turn, then they're sitting pretty going to the next one with Muster for Battle still available to them. There's that mounted Raptor again. All 3 Druid decks that we've seen today.
Pretty cool stuff. I mean, that card hasn't had the biggest of impacts, but it's definitely played a role in some of the Druids' success and failures.
I love the comparison that you made earlier. It's pretty much just the replacement for Shade, or, you run one-ofs of each, a 1 Shade and 1 mounted Raptor, because they do have very different strengths.
Sure. That Pilot Shredder, a really good draw as well. Now you can muster and play the Shredder.
Yeah, and this is exactly the kind of position that University of Texas wants to get with this Paladin deck. Have a relatively healthy life total, have a big board presence, and be going into a big Tyrion turn. I mean, this pretty much could not be looking better for them at the moment.
And solid Shredder placement as well. Always have to commend those.
Yeah, it's actually better to place in the middle on the right side because of the token spawn on the right.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Yeah, very good technical play. I mean, those kind of small things make maybe a 0.5% difference, but you never know if they actually help.
It's potentially even less because first you have to get the Flame Tongue or the Direwolf Alpha, and then it has to make an impact where it otherwise, wouldn't have. So, but like Dan said, the technical plays that make the small differences can win you those fringe case games that you otherwise wouldn't have won.
All right, well, back over in UNC land, they do have the second mounted Raptor here, so I think we just play 1 mounted Raptor, the Druid of the Saber, and we have a hero power to go whichever token you want. I'm feeling like we shut down the one on the far right. But I don't know. I'm trying to evaluate the merits of playing both mounted Raptors, and I feel like Druid of the Saber accomplishes pretty much the same thing. You have 3/2 for stats, which doesn't immediately die, and it's relatively sticky. So I think this is still an okay-ish spot for UNC. If they pick up like a Savage Roar as time goes on, you never know if that ends up becoming a lot of damage at the end of the game.
Yeah, really respecting the tokens as well. Unleashing that Panther onto the 1/1 just to take that threat off the board.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, was that played around Quartermaster?
I'm trying to picture a world where Tyrion doesn't hit the board this turn. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And I do not see it. I think University of Texas is going to put their faith in the light. And North Carolina, they have a mounted Raptor in their hand. And a Darnassus asked for
What's
it.
the strongest 1-drop? Is the Injured Cavaldi or 1-drop? Is that the strongest one?
Yeah, Flame Imp is also really powerful.
Flame Imp too, yeah.
It just depends on the board state, but for the most part, the 2/4 is basically going to be the best one.
Yeah, unless you
Stat-wise?
absolutely need 3 damage to take out a crucial threat.
Yeah.
Sure. As far as I know. There's also the target dummy.
How do they tackle this?
Oh, wait. Never mind.
Voidwalker.
I was thinking about taunts that I wanted, but target dummy's a 0, man. Oh, Goldshire Footman's over.
Oh, Goldshire
I was thinking about, like, ways you can stop Tyrion.
Void Caller.
Void Caller
Tournament
as well.
attendee.
Or Void Walker.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sorry, Void Walker.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not cards we play very often. Murloc Knight, another card that I could just light it up, especially if he summons another Murloc Knight.
We've got Pyromancers, we've got Tyrion, we've got Murlocs, we've got Sylvanas, like undead. This is like a ragtag group of minions that have come to fight here, but they're doing a damn good job. I mean, North Carolina, this one's done. Like, it's just like there's no route to victory here. They would need to draw. I don't even know what. Like, it's got to be like Force Nature into Harrison into nothing but swipes.
Yeah.
Wrath to Harrison would be the play.
Yeah, Wrath into Harrison.
Then you'd have to trade off your board.
Bell Reaver. Well, let's see what's behind the mounted Raptor. Hey, it's one of the better ones.
How about gain 5 life for your opponent when you're playing the aggressive try to kill you really fast deck?
Yeah, it's one of the better ones stat-wise, but as far as, win condition-wise, I don't know if it's... When UNC's only way back, one of the only ways back in the game is just to try and race. I mean, that's how much damage is that even? 8?
Right now, there's 11 on the board.
So Bluegill Warrior from this Murloc Knight or Old Merc I would.
Or a War Leader.
Or a War Leader, exactly.
3 out of 8 Murlocs?
That's pretty good odds.
No?
Close enough.
Well, if they had a no, not quite.
And Murloc Knight's about to get nerfed.
That's right, because that
Tiny Fin.
Yeah, that other 0 mana 1/1 is coming into play.
It's like a Wisp, but better.
Yeah, that's when they said they power creeped Wisp. I was like, no, they didn't.
Here's the thing, though: if your opponent web spinners a Hungry Crab, it's a nerf to Wisp.
Yeah,
and also you can't get Wisp from a Murloc Knight.
That is true. Or can you?
Ooh.
I dare you to think of a challenge if you can or can't.
No, you can't.
You might be able to indirectly.
That is not a Deathwing with taunt, so North Carolina is dropping this game. And I mean, this one's just been so one-sided.
Yeah, I mean, we could have talked about the tough turn of Paladin, how to deal with the Fel Reaver, but playing the Lay on Hands was just as good as playing the Sylvanas, which was just as good as Hero Power a Quartermaster.
It's one of those games where you can close your eyes and click buttons and you're still going to win.
It's because of the early game of the curve of how it's staved off the aggro. The Zombie Chow, Muster for, well, not Muster, Shielded Mini Bot, and then eventually got a chance to even play Muster for battle without getting swiped. That was just huge.
Mm-hmm. And looks like UNC is probably just going to take this time to talk about the next matchup a little bit, potentially, because they do have a time limit to try and switch up their decks. But they will fall, and that's University of Texas at Arlington taking game